Welcome into this Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't know. The days are running together. The Wednesday edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford studio today. We've got some attendance news today. We had an Ole Miss baseball game last night. We're going to talk a little bit about some football coverage today and more coming up on the podcast. The podcast brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Get that lunch special. That's $5.69, 2 sides, bread, 32-ounce drink. Best deal in town there for you at the Oxford Exxon Blue Sky location. All Blue Sky locations in Mississippi. You can download the Speed Pass Plus app, earn some points, save some money in the process there with the Oxford Exxon and Blue Sky. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi. Call that number, 662-257-1900. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. Get your quote, and the rest is completely up to you. 662-257-1900. We have guests will join us on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters on the Water at Sardis Lake is now open Wednesday through Friday. I've been getting hours wrong. It's totally my fault.
Oh.
Yeah, not bad. Just one day a week wrong. Wednesday through Friday, they open at 5. Saturday and Sunday, they open at 11. Frozen margaritas, which sounds really good right now. Daiquiris, great food, amazing waterfront views there at Rafters on the Water. And then don't forget Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford and also in New Albany.
Even with it not being overly warm outside, frozen margarita still good?
Kind of sounds good.
Really?
Yep. I'm telling you, it's a time of year thing.
It clicked.
My body clock's like, hey, you know what sounds good?
Banana daiquiri. That's always the thing. That's the one. But actually, I say that. I do feel like you have to be on the beach or on vacation for the banana daiquiri. That has less like flexibility than just the margarita. Maybe I
don't want a banana daiquiri.
See, it's my favorite frozen cocktail is the banana daiquiri. I know it's not your thing.
No, but I love a good frozen margarita. And I'll freely admit it. And if that means I lose my man card, I'm 51. You can take my man card. I don't care.
That's not
frozen margarita with the salt on the thing, floating around in a pool. Awesome. In.
The only the least popular margarita is just the neat essentially not frozen or
where they just take the mix and pour it over rocks.
Essentially, yeah, right?
Yeah. I like a margarita at least shaken and strained.
Do you really?
Yeah. I think if you're using fresh lime juice and stuff, that gives it some more. It makes it a little more velvety.
Because frozen has got the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's, we used to have the people that would come in and say, can I get a top shelf margarita frozen? And you're like, you can get whatever you want, but why?
Yeah, you're doing that just to do it, aren't you?
You're doing that just to say it's top shelf. I sometimes wonder, by the time you put it in a blender and it made a whole bunch of noise and all that stuff, could you really be able to taste the difference between that and the house stuff that's been in the machine?
Rankin says, Chase, I admire your ability to completely analyze everything. Well, when you're on in front of a microphone over the course of 7 hours in a week, you have to analyze pretty much everything in your day that happens that might potentially be something that somebody can feed off of at that point.
You like martinis? We've never had this conversation. I didn't used to. Laura loves them, and so every once in a while I'll have a sip, and I'm like, that's not so bad.
Because I'm a kind of a cocktail snob, it sort of annoys me that I don't like a gin martini.
Yeah.
I feel like I should like a gin martini.
Do you like a vodka martini?
I much would rather prefer the vodka martini
okay.
than the gin martini.
No, there's really no difference.
Just up with a twist. I don't want the olive. But yeah, I'm fine with it. But I mean, frankly, from a straight cocktail standpoint, it's going to be one of the three. If it's a bourbon thing, it's going to be a Sazerac with rye. It's going to be a Manhattan, or it's going to be an old fashioned, depending on where I'm getting it.
Sure.
And then if I don't trust anybody, I'll pick out the best bottle I find and go, yeah, just pour that over ice, and I'll make it work.
If it's really well made, I love a whiskey sour.
Okay. And then if it's summer and I don't, for whatever reason, that particular day, I don't want bourbon, give me a true daiquiri.
Yeah.
And that is my summer cocktail.
Sure.
Is Don't do anything stupid. Know how to make it and make it well, and we'll move on with our day. That's the
simple.
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's simple syrup, lime juice, and rum. That's it. That's all it is. Put it together and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's one or the other. Kyle says, "What's the worst meal you've had to eat not to hurt someone's feelings?" I wonder how many times when coaches are on unofficial visits that they eat really bad food. That would be a great story if you could actually get them to open up about the crappy meals they have to eat over the course of the
I think you could
time.
get a coach that was basically done with his career to talk about a meal like from 20 years ago, but they're so scared of upsetting.
Yeah, he's never going to talk about somebody even sort of around the program.
I don't even think if you granted him total anonymity, like we're not saying even names or cities or anything.
Somebody know about the meatloaf.
He said, so I had this beef stroganoff this time that was whoa. And you just don't know whether that was somebody's special family dinner.
Do you have to say yes to seconds?
No.
You can beg off seconds, right?
You can beg off seconds.
You can make a joke about watching your figure or something.
There was a coach, I can't remember where this happened, but it was a big name coach who said that when he was an assistant, once he went on a recruiting trip and he'd been eating all day, and he said, I just couldn't do it. And I turned down the meal, and he goes, I almost got fired. We got in the car, he said, to go back to the hotel, and the head coach told him, if we don't get the kid, you're fired. Never turn the meal down. Ever. It's the best meal you've ever had.
Yeah.
Every time.
I get that. That makes sense to me. Completely. So. Anyway, I don't know. Somebody's asking about your Spanish Fort Mexican restaurant.
Someone's talking about your shirt. Something about his shirt says yes. Don't know what the question was. Oh, it was, do you like martinis? And the shirt says yes. I wonder why alcohol was on my mind suddenly. I think now I know. It was subliminal.
Like my New Year's shirt. Like
it's kind of like I tell this story all the time. You know, John Edwards of Regency Travel advertises on this show, and about twice a week I get a call from someone going, "Hey, man, what's the name of that guy that advertises the travel agent that advertises on your site?" And it's we're men. I think we learn subliminally.
Yes. So, what has more bearing on anything that the NCAA has relaxed some attendance guidelines, or that Ole Miss lost to UT Martin 9-7 last night?
All right, let's cover UT Martin really fast.
Let's get it out of the way.
I'm gonna handle it really fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I know nothing about the game, and I bet I know nothing about it. I was busy yesterday. Carson had OHS soccer tryouts. Got in the car. We drove to Tupelo for Tupelo Football Club tryouts. Got in the car, came back. I have no idea what happened.
Okay.
They pitched people who would normally not pitch in a 3 or 4 game series.
Yes, and they had bad outings by 2 of the guys they throw a lot.
Okay. And it is revelatory of the following.
Yep.
Or emblematic of the following. If Ole Miss is going to get to a super regional, it's got to be clean. It's got to go
very chalk.
They got to win Friday, win Saturday.
For damn sure those 2.
And then, in all likelihood, beat up a depleted team on Sunday and get to a super regional, which is set up more for Ole Miss than a regional is.
Mm-hmm.
If Ole Miss loses on Friday and has to win 5 games or whatever it would be, 4 games, play a 5th game to win, the bats better be red hot because they don't have the depth of pitching to do that the way that maybe a Vanderbilt or an Arkansas or a Mississippi State even does.
Yeah, I'm following the game last night, and Ole Miss ties it at 6 at one point. UT Martin hits a 3-run home run off Austin Miller, goes up 9-6. Justin Bench hits a home run. Ole Miss cuts it to 9-7. Elko hits a ball off the wall, but he can only get a single out of it because he didn't quite get to the wall, but he gets a single out of it because he can't run. And as I'm watching it, I'm kind of going, if they would win, it's kind of the same story, but I don't have to deal with the other part of this in a minute when I know what's coming. And then UT Martin ends up winning 9-7. And Ohio Valley Conference team that season's going to end this weekend because they have not even qualified for the Ohio Valley Conference tournament next week.
Yeah.
And the message board and social media is mass hysteria about how that has killed all hosting possibilities and that the RPI is going to be like 48 when they wake up in the morning.
No.
And
That's a lack of understanding of RPI.
Well, it's two things. And, I'm going to be quick because we're going to move on. But I think it's the RPI only fell like one or two spots because it was only going to do one or two things either way. And then two, non-conference records are seen as a group. Like, you might have a standout thing in there, but for the most part, hey, what'd they do in the non-con? What's the non-strength schedule?
Yeah.
Technically, they helped their non-con strength schedule last night because UT Martin is higher now in the RPI than they were before they beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss goes 20-5 in the non-con, which is a very acceptable record. They had one rain out, and they have 3 top 10 non-conference wins. The non-conference RPI and situation is fine. What if they do not host? It's because they fall flat on their freaking face in Athens starting
Georgia.
Tomorrow night.
Yes.
And had they beat UT Martin,
it wouldn't have mattered.
It still would have been whether they fall flat on their face in Athens, Georgia, starting tomorrow night.
Proof of this, we do this every week. If you ask the coaching staff before the week, hey, you're going to play 4 games this week, you get to win 2, they'd say give us 2 in Athens.
That's going to kind of suck on Tuesday, but whatever.
Give us 2 in Athens.
Yeah.
If you say you can have 3, give us 3 in Athens. If you say you can only have 1, they'll say, oh, my God, give us 1 in Athens. The UT Martin game was going to be the 4th game of the list. But it does tell you they don't have the 70, whatever 60 games, whatever it is into it. They don't have the depth of pitching that perhaps you would want to have.
Yeah, that's what I wrote last night. Was you can forget about the resume, but it's completely fool's errand to do so. However, from a pitching standpoint, Austin Miller got hit around. Tyler Myers didn't have the best night, and they haven't found somebody else. Brandon Johnson was great last night, but can he do it consistently?
Right.
What's that look like? I do think he makes a lot of sense. Mike still doesn't really trust Wes Burton. I mean, there's just some stuff there. So yeah, that's what it showed you is that Cody Adcock had a rough night. Josh Mallett's got banged around as a starter, and that's what happens. What happens last night cannot happen in a regional if they're going to throw these guys or whatever they're going to do. So,
which, just to wrap up the baseball conversation, that's why I think this weekend's important for Ole Miss beyond go get 2. I think if you get 2, what are they, 15 right now?
They're 16.
16.
Who's 18 and 12?
You're hosting. You don't have to worry about it because the reality is, and you and I talked about this.
They
this
can
morning.
get beat 47-0 on Tuesday in Hoover, and they're still hosting.
Yeah, they're 18 wins. You're hosting, and for Ole Miss to get into the national seed picture, they've got to sweep Georgia and then likely get at least 2 sets of help. Mississippi State probably has to go to Alabama and lose 2 out of 3. You got to make sure Florida doesn't do something crazy in Fayetteville, and then you probably need Tennessee to have a really bad weekend in Columbia. And so a lot of that is out of your control. Just go win 2 games. And if it's me and I'm Mike, and we'll talk about this a whole lot Monday, but if it's me and I'm Mike, if that happens, and it's obvious that I'm going to be a host and probably not a top 8, I just throw some dudes on Tuesday in Hoover, and if I win, fine, and if I lose, so be it. But what's become more and more obvious on this team is that they've got about 4, maybe 5 dependable arms, and you don't need to lose one in any way.
To win to the level that we're talking about in Hoover, they would have to win a slugfest game with one of these other dudes throwing anyway. So go ahead and make it on the Tuesday. Maybe you get hot with some bats and hang around for a while, and who knows.
Yeah.
But I'm not bumping up Doug Nikhazy to Tuesday to try to make something happen.
No,
the hell with that.
Because you're going to play somebody who's realistically,
you're going to play A&M or Missouri or Auburn.
You're going to play somebody who deep down goes, hey, look, if we win today, great. But if we don't,
we go home.
We go to the beach.
We're done.
We're at the beach by tomorrow night. There'll be more girls at the beach than there are hanging out with us. Let's get out of here. And if they win, they'll find a way to, because they're baseball players, and you play a game and you try to win. But my point is, you're not exactly going to play the most motivated team in the world that day.
You've got to set yourself up for success. That's the goal for Hoover, whatever that looks like moving forward. But I still think one win in Athens, and they're hosting no matter what.
I do too. 17 wins. That's a host number.
17 and 13. RPI is going to be 13 to 18-ish.
You're hosting.
Yes.
You're which is what I think they are. I mean, I think they have to have a lot of help.
Because remember, whatever your RPI is, it's actually 2 better than that in the 16.
Sure.
Because Fairfield doesn't count and Oklahoma State doesn't count. Stillwater was not named one of the 20.
Yeah.
So no matter what Oklahoma State does, they're not hosting. unless the NCAA changes that rule too here in a week. I don't know. We'll see. But crazier things have happened.
The NCAA changing rapidly, man. I mean,
they wasted a lot.
I feel cheated. I did not get my opportunity.
Because you wanted to talk about certification.
I did. I wanted to ask about, could you guide me through the process of certifying a stadium that's been played in for months? How does that work? What is it that you do? I wanted to have my Anthony Fauci, this is theater moment. I wanted someone just to admit, you know what, sir, jackass, there is no certification. It's just a word we use in a bureaucracy to make everyone feel better and to make it look like we care and to make it look like we're concerned and to make it look like we're taking it seriously. But it's a collection of BS. You know it, I know it. So we can you don't ask this question anymore. To which I would have tipped my proverbial hat and been done. I was really kind of hoping to have the conversation where the guy goes, well, what we have to do is, so what's the difference? I mean, but I'm glad for the fans. I'm glad for the fans that it's wide open. Go, enjoy it. Baseball's meant to be watched by people. The Cubs honored John Lester last night. It was good that there were fans in the stadium to stand up and clap, right? The game's meant to be played in front of people. You practice so that you can play in front of people. Sports are meant to be played in front of an audience. They're entertainment. If there's no one there to see it, it's not all that entertaining, which makes it less fun for the participants. Thus, I go back to my Tim Corbin Ole Miss Arkansas series, where he said at the end of the day, are we really in this for the kids? Are we really in this for the student athletes? Because if we are, look at that. It was what happened in Oxford is every one of those kids on both of those teams 40 years from now will remember that weekend. And whether you like Tim Corbin or you think Tim Corbin is the biggest jerk in the world or anywhere in between, he is exactly right. The stadium is either safe or it's not safe. And all the social distancing BS and all that stuff about are people wearing a mask and all that crap, it's either safe or it's not safe. And so it took till today, May the 19th, 2021, in the year of our Lord, for them to finally admit, you know what, it's all theater.
They wasted a lot of time. They essentially, this is a question though, like, we'll get there in a second. We'll tell you about Northeast Spark, NESPARC.com. 2 packages for internet, the Ignite, the 100 Mbps, or the Blaze, the 1 gig that powers the Clark Ford studio. Your hometown team bring you world-class broadband. Again, that's nespark.com, 662-238-3159.
We're also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of Nissan vehicles. They've got some that are new, some that are previously owned, and they've got great lease deals as well. You can find out all about that at GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Join Coach Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels in the vault this season. Season ticket packages start at $199. Can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. That's OleMissTix.com. We'll be taping a Chasing the Ring podcast this weekend. It's brought to you by Lammons Fine Jewelry in Oxford, 1126 North Lamar Boulevard. They've been serving the Oxford area for almost 75 years. Engagement rings, wedding rings, fine jewelry, pearls, watches, you name it, they've got it. It's the gold standard in fine jewelry. LammonsFineJewelry.com or call them at 662-234-2777. Also brought to you by Comer Heating and Air. It's the name you can trust in professional HVAC experience in Oxford, Tupelo, and the surrounding area. 662-801-1777. Make sure that air conditioner is in tip-top shape. The hot weather is coming. You want to be prepared. 662-801-1777. And speaking of being prepared, now that there will be more tickets available for what I presume will be an Oxford Regional here in a couple of weeks. You want to get your gear, and to do that, you go to the College Corner. It's your one-stop Rebel Shop, 2 locations in the Jackson area in Ridgeland. It's next to Fleet Feet and Flowwood. It's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, go to collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. We'll be taping a Mind on My Money tomorrow that's brought to you by Pinnacle. Pinnacle's based in Madison, Mississippi. It's also home to the Pinnacle Trust 401k Advisory Services team, where they can conduct a complimentary, no-obligation benchmarking and analysis of your current 401k plan. It's pintrust.com, PINNtrust.com.
So, and I mean, I haven't seen anything about this. This is all coming from what we're talking about. This is all coming from Kendall Rogers. He had a tweet that said that all baseball and softball championships will be at 100% capacity from attendance, as long as the state that event is in has the protocols in place to allow that from a state mandate standpoint. Obviously, Mississippi does.
Yeah.
Most SEC schools are trending that direction quickly as things move forward. But I think Hoover will go to 100% today, tomorrow, something like that. The ACC has said they're doing 100% in theirs.
Today's Wednesday? No later than Friday.
Okay. If you're whomever, I don't know, I haven't looked at the RPI thing. But don't you have to, if you're the AD for whatever team is getting kind of hot right now, to send a thing and go, well, you guys aren't following the reason you had this. Why the hell does the 20 even matter? Why don't you just do it normally for that Monday?
Whoa.
I mean.
That's profound.
Well, I mean, why are we sticking to the 20? Like, Ole Miss is in if they're not in by their own accord. This isn't about Ole Miss. But just in general, if you're Florida State and you get really freaking hot, like.
Someone in the thread has a really good question. Cole Woods, he says, even though it's full capacity, if both number 2 seeds win, there will be a super regional where neither crowd site gives a. Is he right? That was the original plan. Because no, hold up. Before you go, well, Neal,
No, I know.
Okay, because I'm going to have my moment here because me and Cole are on the same page. They said, hey, we got to certify these stadiums. See, this is why they need to be held accountable to this crap. We got to certify these stadiums, and because it would not be possible. Go back to my analogy, okay? Let's say Ole Miss is paired with Tennessee, all right?
Sure.
In a super regional. If it goes by chalk, Ole Miss goes to Knoxville for a super regional. Who's the 2 in Ole Miss's? Just give me somebody.
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech wins the Ole Miss regional. Who's the 2 in Knoxville? NC State.
Sure.
NC State wins the regional there. Okay? All right?
Neither one of them are one of the 20.
Now we got Georgia Tech and NC State, an all ACC thing with the trip to Omaha on the line. Were you going to play at Knoxville? That's the stadium that got certified. Certified Swayze, you can play it in Oxford. But you didn't certify Atlanta, and you didn't certify Raleigh, so you can't go there. They need to be held accountable to the theater that they performed.
I'm asking the question. See if we get an answer while we're on the show.
All right, while you're doing that, I'll answer everybody's asking Trey Berry questions. So I'll give you what I know about Trey Berry, the tight end from Jacksonville State who entered the transfer portal. We're going to talk about coverage in the fall in a minute, and this will somewhat tie into it, what we'll talk about in a little bit. Based on what I could gather from talking to a couple people this morning, he did not feel comfortable with what he was being told by other schools recruiting against Ole Miss, who said, hey, Randy Clement's not there. They don't have an offensive line coach. Randy Clement was one of the key people that had been kind of, quote, recruiting him. Keep in mind, he's at Jacksonville State. He's not in the portal until recently. You couldn't recruit him, right? I mean,
Correct,
everything's kind of, you got to be kind of careful. So he was concerned that he would come to Ole Miss and that he would sign and that he would get enrolled and then something would happen with the offensive staff and he would be in an unfamiliar situation with Jeff Lebby not here or something along those lines. That's what was told to him. It created enough doubt that he chose what he viewed to be a more stable environment for him. So he went to Boston College. That's it. That's what happened. Ole Miss didn't back off. Ole Miss didn't stop recruiting him. They got beat. The bottom line is, no matter what you think about how it went down or whatever, from the outside looking in, firing the offensive line coach on the Tuesday after the spring game and not having a replacement 4 weeks later is an odd look. It's a look that creates a seed of doubt. That's it.
Yeah, sure. And the length of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
You fire the offensive line coach on the Tuesday after the spring game. You don't have a replacement. And, I mean, I think most people concede that Jeff Lebby's not going to be here after this coming season. And so opposing recruiters say, hey, how do you know he's going to be there when the season starts? Stuff happens. What if he gets offered an NFL job? What if something opens up? How do you know he's going to be there? For the record, I don't think there's any doubt that Jeff Lebby will be here in the fall. But the point remains, when you're recruiting a young person and you plant some doubt, sometimes the doubt wins. Didn't have any loyalty to Ole Miss. He's been at Jacksonville State. He's coming as a grad transfer. So he got 1 year to play one.
It's a fairly significant loss for Ole Miss. I mean, from a standpoint of what they do at that position, what they've got. I mean, you and I both kind of like DeMarcus Thomas to some extent. But
yeah, sure.
He's not the dynamic down-the-field playmaker that you're potentially trying to get, however.
I still think they probably need to add an offensive weapon. It doesn't have to be a tight end. It could be
they feel a weapon short.
Could be a slot guy.
Depending on how they use Ely and he stays healthy.
Sure.
Whatever Plumlee does, potentially.
Sure.
But, yeah, no, it feels one – at this moment, giving everything, it feels one short. I think that is.
Mark's question is Lebby leaving or being fired before the season remotely possible? He's not being fired, and I don't think he's leaving. The issue is there is instability on the offensive staff. And so when that gets exposed to a kid, especially a kid like this who's got 1 year to bolster his pro stock, that's his only goal in this year is not to become a golden eagle or a rebel or anything else for life. It's to go someplace where he can enhance his pro stock. He's going to go with the safe choice.
It appears that is not something anybody has thought about or is aware of as far as what the NCAA may or may not do moving forward. So I don't know. I
mean, it's a big decision.
It would be again. They very well might just go. You know what? I know we told you guys these were the only 20, but the hell with it. Everybody's. I have no clue. I don't know.
Do you know how many people would die if they did that? Don't be flippant with this. I mean, you're just asking for super spreader events all over the country, all so that you can play some of your precious college baseball
and softball. And
softball, too, yeah, of course. I'm sorry. Softball as well.
16 of those sites that have been announced.
And so
That's true. They've already got their whole damn bracket done.
And so if a pair of number 2 seeds were to win, what do you do?
If Ole Miss wins, do they play the Super Regional in Tucson?
Well, you can't play it here because the stadium's not certified.
I know. That's what I'm saying. If this rule has not been changed.
And so if you were to play, I mean, think about this.
Who are they matched up with?
Arizona, right?
Yeah, but who's the other side?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
But
keep talking. How
could you play? I don't know how you could allow that to happen. You could play a baseball event at Ole Miss, but that's what, a half mile away?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you play a softball event at Ole Miss in a stadium that's not been certified?
So Arizona, Ole Miss, Maryland, Baltimore County, and Villanova are matched up against the Fayetteville Regional, Arkansas, Stanford, Manhattan, and South Dakota State. So if Ole Miss and Stanford win, they got to figure out where the hell they're playing that thing.
Tucson.
Or Fayetteville. Those are the choices.
Sure, Arkansas would be thrilled at that point to just throw that in the mix. Yeah, we'll do it, sure. Y'all come on up and play.
Go Rebels. We'll get everything ready for you. We're good.
Yeah, our staff's exhausted, and yeah, sure. Stadium ops, everything.
For the good of the NCAA. And really humanity.
To prevent a super spreader.
Right.
That would do it because there'd be nobody there other than the 2 teams and their families.
There's lots of these kind of matched up. Tennessee's matched up with Missouri. Oklahoma State's matched up with Texas. Georgia matched up with Florida. A lot of intra-conference possibilities for a super.
This is where I get mad at your friends, by the way.
My friends?
Your friends Aaron and Kendall and the others who have a conduit to the NCAA people who can't ask, hey, can y'all admit this was a terrible idea? Can y'all admit that you bungled this? Can you admit that you performed theater? You got dramatic?
Rushed a decision for no reason.
You made a decision weeks before you had to make a decision for no reason other than to look virtuous.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to admit that on the record?
Well, no one will.
Well, then what did you do? Put them on the record. I mean, I do. I'd like some accountability to that because it was completely unnecessary. I mean, it was good for us. It gave us talking points for shows, but give me a break. It was pointless. It was performance art.
Do you think they knew they were going to relax it at some point?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, I think it's why when they put out words like certification, it was intentionally. I do. I believe it was all to look like they
Kind of vague and
Yeah, I think it was performance art. They could have said we don't really know yet. Right now, we're just going to keep operating like it's going to be normal, and we'll figure it out when we get closer to it. And you, behind closed doors in your hand raise meetings, you start putting plans together. What do we do if? What do we do if? What the hell else are you doing all day? You're not investigating LSU baseball or football or whatever the hell it is. You're not doing anything else. So spend days planning for
plans B, C, and D.
I mean, you and I were making plans today for September. Why can't they make plans for June?
It's a hell of a question.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have no answers. But
Well, I don't have the ability to ask the question. Some of the people that are out there do and don't. I guess the shrimp cocktail's that good. That's all I got.
very spicy.
I just think they're buddies, which is part of what you're not supposed to do in this job. You can be friendly, but you don't need to become such pals that you can't do the job.
Because in a lot of ways, they've set up their own take a bow moment. Now they're getting congratulated for just doing the normal thing.
Doing what you always did?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I guess. I'm not.
In a lot of ways, it's like, oh, well, look, they're going 100%. Look, great move. Yeah.
Yeah, well, fans go, let's go, yeah, because it's exciting. But a lot of this was just the dramatics were completely unnecessary. You saw this coming months ago.
So we'll talk about this for a bit. Do you want to set up what we're dealing with from a coverage standpoint? You go there now?
Sure. I don't think we have anything. There was no other big pressing need for us to get to, right? We have some other stuff we'll touch on. But
Yeah,
this was
no.
the next
I've got a
big
couple things up just to hit, but nothing else.
Yeah, so the conversation we've been having over the last, I don't know, months is, hey, we covered Ole Miss football in a certain way in 2020 because of a pandemic that, we were just thankful there was something to cover. There was no access. Everything was by Zoom. We didn't go to the games because there was no reason to go to the games. We did tons and tons of live streaming because the overwhelming majority of the fan base couldn't go to the games either. The stadium was never more than, 25%? Is that correct? Bought Hemingway?
That's correct, 25%.
So, sub 62,000 seat stadium that was limited to 16,000 people, give or take a few. I don't know the exact numbers, and I don't really care to dig them up at this point. So the conversation we've been having is, what do we do with football season now? Because we have two completely sets of different feedback. One is, hey, I love the way you guys did last year. Are you going to do that again?
Mm-hmm.
And then two is my nagging thing that bothered me all of last year, which was, I get it that we're doing something that makes money and we're doing something that creates no travel expenses and all that, but we're not really giving our customers at rebelgrove.com what it is that they actually pay for, which is written content. And so that's what we've been spending several meetings, if you will, just phone calls, talking about, hey, what the hell do we do? So
let us know what you want. Let us know what makes a lot of sense for you, essentially. I think we kind of have a plan. I don't know what we're doing that gets a little bit of the best of both worlds. It's not 100% perfect in either direction, but nothing's going to be, and there's only so many bodies here, so you have to pick and choose and figure out what works best. But yeah, definitely to increase content from a written capacity, but then not completely abandon the things that we do think make tons of sense from a streaming standpoint, from a video standpoint, things you guys will want as we move forward. I think we want to put more resources into the pregame show. I think we both think that makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways.
There will definitely be a pregame show. It will be live to some capacity. We'll do a lot of it. Will be pre-recorded, but it'll be things that you haven't seen yet. It won't be necessarily repeats of what we've already done in the week. Like during the football season, I would take the Friday SEC football and beyond, and I would stream it again on Saturday morning.
But before the main show.
Yeah. I mean, we had to stream for the LSU game, for example. We streamed for 13 hours.
Right.
But a lot of it was like the butcher versus the spin instructor was 7 hours before kickoff, which was just kind of meant as a, hey, if you want to have something up,
here's the link if you're outside by the pool.
If you're hanging out or whatever.
Doing, sure.
That pool would have been cold in December, but
That's true. Fair
good
enough.
point. But yeah, stuff like that. So I think there will be a pregame. There will definitely be a pregame show. I'm leaning towards me getting back into in-person coverage of football. This is all assuming that everything is not on Zoom. If everything's on Zoom, we're going to do everything like we did just last year. I'm not going to a football game so that I can
then try to leave or get to a quiet spot and then.
I'm not doing that. I'm not going to. If everything's by Zoom, I'm not going to go. It's pointless. I'm not going to travel to Knoxville to do a Zoom call that I can do from my kitchen. But if everything's in person, I think I'm going to go. I think Chase will do some stuff. The problem we've got is that people like that post-game show that we did last year where we were both in front of a camera, where we took calls and all that, and that is absolutely just not possible if we're not in the same place.
Yeah, I mean, because I thought the comment that really hit home, I don't remember if it was on the message board or in one of these threads, it was from Luke Jenkins, who said that if we're doing that all day long on Saturday, but we're sitting in front of the TV doing the pregame, not going to the game, doing the in game, and then going to the postgame, our job is to kind of be y'all's eyes, and we see nothing you don't see. Frankly, we see less.
We see less.
Because we're talking and doing 10 different things at once while we're kind of watching the thing. So our goal is to give you a better product pregame than we've been giving you in the past, with better, more defined segments, more structure from that standpoint, and then give you a show postgame that you will enjoy but might look a little different in some way, is kind of what I'm thinking off the top of my head. And then again, more actual content from a football Saturday.
There would be a lot more written content from both of us, and then we might even from both of us. We'll see about the rest of it. And then post game would be different, because I think the post game would be more. It'd probably be a lot more football oriented, because it wouldn't be the two of us. I mean, Chase could take calls. Chase could do a lot of the stuff that we've done. We can get people to come on. I can join a post game show from where I am before and after I work and stuff. But there's no way to. There's literally no way to do everything that everyone wants us to do, because we can't be in two places at once unless we can figure out a way to do that, at which point I'm about to get rich.
And we're not going to be the TCU guys who try to do a show from the press box. That would be a problem.
Yeah, I believe it or not, as much as I dislike most of the people that I have to work around,
you have to respect them enough.
I respect what they're doing enough that I'm not going to be the guy that's talking loudly in a press box.
And at Ole Miss, there's literally nowhere to do it.
Right. So I'd have to go.
Even for that 10, 20 minutes, you're going to have to go find a spot somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go in the parking garage or outside or something. I'm going to have to go sit someplace and talk. And then, I mean.
Yeah, I can think about that anyway.
Yeah, there's places, I could go after the opposing radio crew is gone. I could step into that room and do something. But, Greg says just delay the start of the postgame 30 minutes or an hour. If you're at the stadium, by the time you finish the postgame stuff, like go to the press conference, get back, it is more than an hour.
And you haven't written.
And I haven't written at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a 3-hour process, and I'm fast.
Yeah, I mean, our typical time leaving a press box as soon as after the game ends is 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
On average.
And we're fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone says have Chase and Zach do a post-game show. I mean, they could do that. The problem is that we'll absolutely do a post-game show. Chase will do a post-game show if we do what I'm kind of leaning towards doing. But there won't be a way to have me or Zach or anybody else on and also take calls. The technology is just not.
I'll ask you some tech questions when we're done.
I mean, there's a couple different thoughts. There's some ways to do stuff, but it gets kind of complicated. Like Jay and Gabe and I, week after week after week, try to find a way to do all three of us on video, and it's just so fundamentally screwy.
It's kind of clunky.
It's clunky to the point of it not working, and what you don't want is to overload your computer, and your computer has to be shut down, so you have to restart a stream, and nobody likes the stop and start stuff if you can avoid it. Well,
I know a couple of you guys got questions on this. We'll go through those in a second. kind of let you know what we're thinking, what you're thinking there. Not done with this topic. Before we do that, though, I will tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting that understands your market, a leader in condo financing, the float down option, and more. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE Community, MTG.com.
Podcast also brought to you in part by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. As I mentioned earlier in the show, a lot of people always ask, hey, who's your travel guy? It's John. He's phenomenal at what he does. A lot of people have used him. Everybody raves about him. What you do is you just get in touch with John, say, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking about. Here's a budget. It's kind of some parameters that I have in my mind. And then do nothing. You sit back, and a few days later, he gives you these detailed travel plans that are as complex or simple as you would like for them to be. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. Podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB is also home to a commercial checking account, now paying 1% interest as long as you keep $10,000 in the account. It comes with fully interactive online banking. They can set up any local business to deposit checks from their office and not have to worry with coming to the bank daily to deposit those checks. To learn more about that and OUB in general, go to liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. I have a mailbag up at the aforementioned rebelgrove.com today. It is brought to you by Whitney McNutt of Tommy Morgan Incorporated Realtors. It's the 135th mailbag. It's a lot of mailbags. It's serving you for your real estate needs in Oxford and Tupelo. Whitney sells condos, land, commercial, and residential family homes. And you can get in touch with her at 662-567-2573 or 662-842-3844.
Ginger, a couple of people having these questions. I mean, there's always the possibility of interns doing some different things on game days. The two issues you run into are, A, that's harder to find the right person maybe you would believe, and maybe we would have believed when we first started that process. And then two,
at some point,
it's very boilerplate. They're not going to be able to have access to people potentially for other things going on that Neal and I would have access to.
It's two things. One, it's at some point as a reporter, you want to get sourced a little bit better. As much as the answer is true, and I've been able to kind of blame it on COVID because it's legitimately because of COVID, I'd hate to a year from now be like, yeah, I don't know these people. I've not met them. You know, I can blame that on COVID right now, and you know this. I mean, it's God's honest truth. It's impossible. There's been no in-person access, but that day comes. And then here's the other thing is you can't be the guy that criticizes people for not asking tough questions if you're not there to ask tough questions. And if you're going to ask tough questions, you've got to be – this is me caring more about journalism than perhaps I should. But if you're going to ask tough questions, you have to be accountable, and that means you have to be present. If the person that you ask the tough question of wants to bite your head off, you have to be in a place to let him have his moment.
Because in Zoom, the only thing we can do is like, hey, when I turn my camera on, you can at least see me when you do it. Like, that's all we got. But yeah, no, when I
want to pull somebody off into the hall out of a press conference and go, hey, I didn't want to ask this in there, but I've heard this and I need to ask this. That's can't say man to man, that sounds sexist. That's a person to person thing that needs to be done in person if it can be.
Well, and just show it up in general. It's real easy to criticize people when you never have to confront them, when you never are in their face, when you always are just behind your keyboard, you're not at press conferences, you're not whatever.
Yep.
And then on the other side of it, you don't ever want to be the media entity that shows up, uses all the quotes, and never opens your mouth and asks a question for anything.
Yeah.
Because it will piss people off.
No, I mean, look, I get criticized for my relationship with Andy Kennedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I asked Andy Kennedy a really hard question in
13.
March of 14 because it was
14,
weeks before
yeah.
they went on their run.
Yeah. Good timing. Good.
And I asked it on a Saturday. They lost at Mississippi State against the Mississippi State team with an RPI of like 250. And a week later, Ole Miss played in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And I went.
You went down there.
And I went for one reason. It wasn't because I love seafood in Baton Rouge. I went because I needed to be accountable. And I was the only Ole Miss beat writer there. And they won. And Andy did not want to talk to me. He did because he did his job and I did my job. And frankly, that was the day that Andy really didn't speak to me for about 2 years. But that day, I think he respected me professionally. And he told me that later. You were there, kind of wanted to punch you in the face, but you asked a question and you showed up.
Okay.
And it was awkward, but I was there. And that's what it's supposed to be like. And I think that's where the bottom line is we're figuring it out.
Yeah, there are no set decisions at this point at all.
But I want us to be accountable. I don't want us to get to a place where, like, what we did last year was fun and it was cool and it was, frankly, the best thing to do given the set of circumstances. But I don't want us to become lazy. I don't want the product to become lazy.
The biggest thing is that while we love every single one of you, we have to find the ways to balance that versus plenty of silent subscribers to a website and figure out what content makes the most sense for everybody.
By the way, Chet, he says that wasn't a hard. I don't think that was a hard question. Yeah, it takes a certain degree of intestinal fortitude to look a person square in the eye and ask him if he thinks he should still be employed. I mean, it just does.
The only easy part, because it's an incredibly difficult question. The easiest part of the question is they have the default answer of that's not my decision.
Sure.
It's up to the athletic director.
Sure.
I coach and I put in every day until
I've said many times not to get into that topic. My regret on that is not asking the question. My regret is asking the question in a press conference setting.
Sure, yeah.
Which sort of goes back to the point. If you're not there, the only possible way to ask it would be in some sort of a Zoom format, which you're doing everybody else's dirty work. I asked the question that nobody else on that beat was going to ask that day, and I gave them the freedom to go write about it.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them the material. Like a Christmas gift in March. And I'm not a big Christmas gift person.
Because that was after Carolina a couple weeks before or a week before when they blew the game to South Carolina that also sucked.
Yeah, I can't remember all that. That's
right?
Yeah, they went to Mississippi State and got beat by a bad state team. And they were in trouble.
You sparked them, really. That's what happened. You
Well, here's the thing.
You're the catalyst.
You know, the funny part about that story is what I wrote was accurate. Had that team not gone on that run, they were going to fire him.
Mm-hmm. He knew that.
Yeah, sure. He didn't know it then. He found out later.
Yeah. He knew something later was in the works of what was going on there.
Yeah.
What's Jay doing next football season?
I don't know. We hadn't talked about it.
Because Gabe's gotten off in video pretty good, too, at this point.
Yeah. Gabe's gotten out of the beat writer portion of it. So Mitchell's his beat writer.
Yeah.
So Gabe will continue to do shows and stuff. But he never did that in-game show. He did it a couple of times, and it was like didn't work for them.
Really?
Yeah.
Different sites, different markets.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
And Jay's got a bigger staff.
Yeah. Yeah, bodies is the problem. And, like, full-time bodies who know people, like, that's the thing. It's got to...
Yeah.
The intern of the kid who literally knows no one and goes, hey, go to the press conference and just kind of write. Well, there's going to be some missing eyes there.
I mean, we could write the questions and they could memorize it. That's been done before.
It works. It's not out of the realm.
That was the damnedest thing. Wow, that's
Hey, if you
crazy.
see a really tall guy walking around, get your list out. Go ask him this. Tell him Dylan Chase sent you, and it's okay.
And I learned quickly, do not put questions down that could possibly be answered with yes or no. Because if they do,
You're getting the yes or no, and then there's no follow-up. It was over.
This interview might last 6 minutes. It might last 12 seconds. It just sort of depends.
I really, really liked her. I did, but it had a certain Ron Burgundy quality to it, where you put the question mark, they were reading the question mark. It was there.
Grind is exactly right. Jay gets so many super chats that I doubt he won't have a show, and that's. I'm not particularly comfortable going there, but yeah, for Jay, his YouTube endeavors have been a much bigger financial driver than it has been for us.
Direct, at least.
We've made some money off YouTube, but nothing like what Jay's made. Just keeping it totally.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Totally transparent.
I don't necessarily even know why, how, or anything else, but.
And Jay has a bigger site than we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just because it's a bigger fan base, there's more people, the whole deal.
Yeah. So, put some other topics in a second. Before we do, I'll tell you about Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com/events. Here coming up soon is the the Summer Sunset Series. It's in the Grove. Starts June 6 to 7:30. Musical acts every single week during the summer. There in the Grove for that. Remember the Oxford Community Market every Tuesday at the Old Armory Pavilion, 3 to 6:30 for that as well, and some more information coming. But you go to visitoxfordms.com, go to the events page, find out what's going on every single day and week here locally in Oxford.
Blue Delta Jeans makes the best fitting, most comfortable jeans in the world because they are uniquely made for you and only you. Raw denim jeans, custom fit, hand-tailored in Tupelo, Mississippi. One size fits one at BlueDeltaJeans.com. Blue Delta's been advertising with us for the past 3 years. We've always directed you to DM them to set up a time to get measured. But now, whether you're coming to Oxford or not, you can visit BlueDeltaJeans.com, get measured by their new virtual tailor, and design your very own jeans. And just for our podcast listeners, enter the discount code Rebel Grove. That's one word, all lowercase, Rebel Grove at checkout, and you get 10% off your order. They're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. When you get yours, you'll feel the exact same way. We're also brought to you by Bain, Moss & Bowen, located in historic downtown Corinth. Their firm practices a wider range of law from DUI defense to car wrecks to representing government entities. Bain, Moss & Bowen is the only firm in Mississippi made up of a sitting state legislator, a former assistant district attorney, and a former circuit court judge. Their experience is unmatched in that regard, and you can tap into it by visiting them at 618 East Waldron Street in Corinth, or by calling them at 662-287-1620. And we're brought to you by Alpha Specialties, located at 1670 Highway 80 in Pearl, Mississippi. It is your trailer-specific professional. If you want to haul it, they can call it at Alpha. It's the premium trailer dealership. Like I said, they got Load Trail. They've also got Hallmark cargo trailers. They can work with third parties to have game day trailers and concession trailers built also. They've got spare tires and wheels starting at $100. A full selection of trailer parts and accessories, hitches, winches, straps, and more. They do all types of truck accessories, and they also have a yearly trailer service and inspection at their full-service shop. You can get 10% off that yearly trailer service, and they repair all types of trailers, concession, horse, utility, enclosed, gooseneck, RV, and more. 601-932-9798 or alphaofms.com. And we are brought to you by The Rogue. The Rogue is your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylist hand-select pieces from top designers, from work to lifestyle to nightlife. There's the perfect something for everyone at The Rogue. All the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, Duckhead, and more. At The Rogue, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or at therogue.com.
A little follow-up to what we spent time on last week after the Baton Rouge Regional was canceled there for NCAA women's golf, allowing the top 6 seeds to advance to the national championships, Ole Miss included since they were the number 2 seed. Barstool stepped in. Barstool invited those teams who were not eligible to play in regionals to compete in a tournament in Arizona that they put on. And the NCAA did approve it as a team event.
What choice did they have?
They had none whatsoever. And that event began today. I know Mississippi State's in it. I know Purdue is in it. I don't know if everyone went or not. Maybe they did. I haven't really looked.
I think most went.
Most went? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool thing. Really neat. I mean,
happy for the kids.
They get to play.
That's what they wanted.
They're going to announce a team champion, individual champions,
sure.
Everything else for that. They sold a bunch of goods to pay for the travel the best they could. 100% of the proceeds did that. So,
Barstool has found its softer side. It has found its philanthropic side,
and they've done a hell of a job with it.
And I've gotten where I really like them.
Frankly, they've cleaned up their image
a lot.
It's been
nowhere
subtle
near as
to
crass.
Not ruin their base.
Yeah,
but it's been very prescribed and very in earnest as they've pulled it off.
And,
I mean,
Portnoy has turned a bunch of pizza places into like very successful places. I mean, he'll go to the mom and he was in Indiana yesterday doing one of their big things is something I wish we could find is a casino, betting house, whatever. If you're out there looking for a partner, hello. But he was like, hey, if there's places in Indiana you recommend. And so I'm sure he did is doing some pizza reviews, which is cool.
They gave a ton of money to small businesses during the pandemic. I mean, saved a ton of small businesses.
Yeah.
That was some of the cooler, neat things that has happened through that. But
I'll answer some questions in the thread. Chris Smithy or Smythe. Chris, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Everyone mispronounces mine. I guess I get used to it. Any word on offensive line coach? He says, as of this morning, I was checking with some people. I don't think they're there yet. I still think they're in search mode on offensive line. It sounds like whoever it was, one or two people that were like the targets initially, it sounds like those deals just didn't happen. I still think, so as we're sitting here on May the 19th, best I can tell, and if I'm wrong, I'll own it, but I don't think I am. I think they're still searching. And then someone mentions TJ Finley as an option for Ole Miss. I still don't think Ole Miss. I don't think he's headed here. I do think there is some mutual interest. I just don't know how strong it is.
Looking at it here, North Texas, Purdue, Tulsa. Looks like South Dakota State's in an individual maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Houston State, East Tennessee State, Houston, Quinnipiac is here as a team.
Cool.
South Alabama sent an individual. Jacksonville State sent its team. Mississippi State sent its team. And then Oregon State sent 3 players. ECU sent an individual.
What did Miami do? They sent everybody?
Still looking. I did not actually see Miami on the list.
Okay, because their coach was really upset.
Yeah, let's actually. That's a good point. She was the most quoted by far out of the people.
Miami and Houston were the two that.
And Houston was here. I saw that.
Miami was really upset. Their coach was.
See what they're saying. Because I am curious about that. Because if they're not there, I kind of wonder why a little bit. That would be weird to me. Canes golf, women's golf team.
I think I followed her on Twitter.
Did you really?
Yeah. Because I was going to invite her on the show.
It appears that they are not there, and they've tweeted nothing about it.
Huh.
So I don't know why, how, nothing else.
Maybe they were afraid it wasn't certified. Like the golf course.
Maybe so.
Just not enough Lysol.
Yeah, they said nothing here about it. So I don't know. I don't know why they're there, but a lot of teams, really cool deal there for those teams as well as Barstool. I pulled this up earlier. Basically, before he was even hired, Tony La Russa has been called out of touch. He's been out of baseball for 7 or 9 years or something like that prior to getting hired by the White Sox. White Sox, that as of yesterday at least, held the best record in the major leagues, I believe, or at least one of the best records in the major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Has had a lot of issues, though. He admitted he did not know the extra innings rule at one point. He
feels like
certainly
that could be
coaches in a
problem.
very specific way. Very accomplished, but does not necessarily fit in with all the things going on. And he had a dust-up last night, not defending one of his own players. Set the scene for you a little bit. He said multiple times that he does not think there's a rift in the clubhouse, but some players have indicated publicly that they absolutely disagree with the Hall of Fame manager's comments about rookie slugger Yerman Mercedes.
You seen that kid play?
A very little bit, but yes.
He can hit a ball out of Grand Canyon.
So La Russa called Mercedes clueless, that was a direct quote, for homering on a 47-mile-an-hour pitch with a 3-0 count from Minnesota Twins infielder Williams Astudillo in the ninth inning of a 16-4 blowout win on Monday. The manager on Wednesday emphasized it was a teachable moment, especially considering Mercedes missed the take sign. What did I say publicly, La Russa asked reporters on a Zoom conference on Wednesday. I said a young player made a mistake, which, by the way, he did, and we need to acknowledge it. Part of how you get better as a team is if something goes wrong, you address it. Some White Sox players didn't necessarily agree with their manager, noting the Twins were pitching a position player at the time. Lance Lynn jumps in. He is by far the one that's been quoted the most throughout this process. Lance says, the way I see it, for position players on the mound, there are no rules. Let's get the damn game over with. And if you have a problem with whatever happens, then put a pitcher out there. Can't get mad if there's a position player on the field and a guy takes a swing. Okay. Trevor Bauer, and he came in on Twitter.
Yes.
He said, dear hitters, if you hit a 3-0 homer off of me, I will not consider it a crime. Can't believe we're still talking about a 3-0 swing. If you don't like it, managers or pitchers, just be better. La Russa on Wednesday said everyone has a right to their opinion, but he disagreed with Lynn, at least when the count is 3-0. Lance has a locker. I have an office, La Russa said. I would be willing to bet there wasn't anyone in that clubhouse that was upset that I mentioned it's not the way we compete. If someone felt that way, then it's my job to correct it. You don't swing 3-0 when you're up by that big a lead. I guarantee Lance would get more votes in that locker room than Tony La Russa.
Not even close. All right, first of all.
He has a locker. I've got an office.
Wow. Whew.
I know Lance pretty well. I bet he did not handle that overly well in the last 24 hours.
I only know him from covering him a little bit, and no, he bristled.
Somebody had to talk him down to shut up for a minute. I have a hunch.
Someone had to remind him that, hey, there are assault rules. First of all, the whole unwritten rule of baseball thing, you can swing at 3-0. You can swing at anything you want to swing at. The game, and look.
But he swung through a take sign.
They bring in the shortstop for the Twins in a 16-4 game. He's a backup infielder, and it's funny. When you do that, you're already waving the white flag. And now it's just, let's have some fun. And God forbid, like one of the funniest moments of the season so far, okay? The Braves are blowing the Cubs out. The Cubs are like, screw it. We don't need to burn our bullpen in this game. We're not coming back to beat the Braves. Let Rizzo pitch.
Strikes out pretty
and
good.
Rizzo's up there, and he's laughing. And Rizzo is laughing so hard that Freddie Freeman starts laughing so hard
that he can't actually hit the baseball.
That he can't concentrate.
Yeah.
And he strikes out on Anthony Rizzo's knuckleball. And the swing is awful, and Rizzo's laughing, and Freddie Freeman starts laughing. And the next day, Rizzo sends the ball over to get autographed, and they end up having a lot of fun with it. Because God forbid that it's occasionally fun.
Well, my point is, if we're talking about respecting the game, isn't it dumber to give the take on 3-0? You're up 16-4. Why the hell are you giving the take on 3-0? Do you need a base runner right there?
He's throwing a 47-mile-per-hour eephus pitch. It's admitting, hey, this is going to be funny. What would be even funnier is if you try to hit it. Ask Ole Miss how they handle 47-mile-per-hour pitches. Thank you. It was funny. So he swung at it, and he hit it out of the ballpark. And so all the pitchers do the thing about, it's the pitch that produces the power, ha-ha. Everybody's having a fun time with it. Nobody got their feelings hurt.
Except Tony,
which ought to tell Tony that he's in the wrong. If both dugouts are laughing,
let it go.
It's okay. It's 16-4. It'll be 0-0 when you start the next time. Nobody's going to plunk anybody because he swung at the second baseman's 47-mile-per-hour 3-0 eephus pitch.
La Russa said he walked around the clubhouse and no one was giving him the, quote, Heisman. The manager was adamant he was simply trying to teach good sportsmanship to a rookie. If you're going to tell me that sportsmanship and the respect for the game of baseball and respect for your opponent is not an important priority, I can't disagree with you more. You think you need more runs to win, you keep pushing. If you think you have enough, respect the game and opposition. Sportsmanship. I'm surprised I'm getting so many questions on this. It's not much to do about nothing. It's much to do about a little bit, LaRussa said.
No. Look, here's the unwritten rule that I would have a problem with, okay? You're up 17-1 and you steal third base.
Yeah, sure. What are you doing?
Come on. You're up 17-1 and the bases are loaded and someone hits a ground ball into left field and the guy on second tries to score. It's understood at this point. Everyone knows it. Hey,
you're pretty station to station.
We're playing station to station baseball now. If the guy hits a double, you move 2 bases. There is no triple at this point. And if you hit a home run and people go, well, that's stupid. Yeah, but that's okay because now you're not showing up the opponent. But when you are the team that waves the white flag by putting in a backup, a position player to pitch, you're admitting, hey, you guys won. We're going to do 2 things here. A, we're going to have a little fun. And B, we're going to save our bullpen. That's all we're doing. We're going to have a little fun, and the game becomes fun now. I mean, Ben Zobrist's the last thing he wanted to do in a Major League Baseball uniform was pitch.
Okay.
His last game as a Cub, the Cardinals had already won the division. The Cubs were eliminated. And actually, it was the game that won the division for the Cardinals, but the Cardinals won it like 12-0 or something, okay?
So once it was out of hand.
Once it was out of hand, and it was Joe Madden's final game as the Cubs manager, he put Zobrist in to pitch. Ben Zobrist's final moment as a Major League player was striking out Yadier Molina, who hat-tipped him, laughing. It was funny. It was cool. Few minutes later, the Cardinals won the division, and they celebrated. It was okay. It was the Cubs going, hey, you know what? We're going to have a moment here. And by putting in Ben Zobrist, were you disrespecting the Cardinals? No, you were letting a guy have a moment. And Yadier Molina swung, and he missed. It was funny. It's okay for the sport. It is a sport. It is okay for sports to be entertaining and funny and for the guys that play the game to have a light moment. It's 16-4. The game's over.
Tony feels like he'd be great at parties. I mean, my God.
Yeah, I mean, I just think
we're old man curmudgeon now. Yeah,
I think there are rules there's some unwritten rules that are followed. Like I don't like, and I've said this, I don't like the guy that hits the home run and stares at it for 35 seconds. You don't slide into second base with your spikes up.
Sure.
You don't do the deal where you slide way out of the baseline and take somebody out and ruin a career. That's the unwritten rules of baseball that get people worked up. You don't steal third base up 10 runs. It's cool. But the other stuff? Like if a guy's throwing a no-hitter, this is 2 different things. Like if he's throwing a no-hitter in the 9th inning, by the way, Spencer Turnbull, who's a Mississippi boy, I think, threw a no-hitter last night for the Tigers. Congrats to him.
Madison Central product.
Yeah, there you go. If you're throwing a no-hitter and it's 1-0, and their leadoff man in the 9th lays down a bunt to get on, that's fine. Now, if it's 11-0
and he lays down a bunt,
that's shitty.
Yeah.
And people go, "What's the difference?" That's your
all the difference
rules.
in the world.
Yeah. But this, maybe I would agree with LaRussa. Maybe if there were a pitcher that was pitching for the Twins who's getting shelled in the 9th inning of one of these games, swinging at a 3-0, I might go, all right, maybe kinda. But when they put in the position, dude, it's both sides admitting, like Lance Lynn said. Lance is when the position. We're 2 things. Let's get out of here, and there are no rules.
Yeah.
Let's just play. It's fine. Because if he hits a routine fly ball to center field, the backup pitcher, infielder there that's pitching is going to be laughing out loud. Gotcha. I gotcha. Ha ha. And that's when you laugh and you do the Freddie Freeman thing. I struck out against Anthony Rizzo. Ha ha. Where later he goes, you know what? I mean, it was fun. It was funny. I've never enjoyed striking out more.
Is this a problem moving forward for their clubhouse?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes, because he's too old.
On a really good team.
Well, it was, kind of a clue when they were getting ready to play the Tigers, and he said, got to get Cobb out. Maybe that he was a little old.
I don't know. I mean, no, even if you disagree with it, going at Lance and one of the veterans on that team publicly.
It's a mistake.
It's a
mistake.
Guy been around a long time.
Been along a long time, won a lot. People respect him.
Got a ring.
Tough guy. Guy that people listen to. Guy who's accountable, etc. On a team full of young guys.
Yeah. That has a feeling that reverberates a little as this thing.
Something tells me Lance and Tony aren't having a steak dinner at Morton's working this out. Tony would be advised to sit down with Lance and chill. And then publicly back off a little. Just go, I had a bad day, overreacted. Sorry.
Yeah. So, all right. We will be back with you for another show this week. Enjoyed everybody in the stream. Questions, comments. Again, you can direct to the message board wherever. We'll still continue to have this conversation about coverage, what we should do, what makes the most sense to get the most content to everybody as we move forward. Ole Miss and Georgia, 6 o'clock tomorrow night from Athens. I know they left town this morning, headed to Georgia. So coverage of that at rebelgrove.com. Selection show will be the Monday after Hoover. Obviously, Hoover starts on Tuesday. Anybody who's not overly aware, single elimination game 5 through 12 on Tuesday, and then the double elimination portion of the tournament begins on Monday, Saturday, and Sunday, back to single elimination. That was a change a few years ago. They no longer do the doubleheader Saturdays to make people play 8 games and get out there.
But they have rain delays. And if you go for one game thinking that you're only going to be there for a couple of games and you're there till Sunday night,
things happen.
Sometimes it can get a little,
Yeah. So enjoy your day. We'll talk to you again very soon.